We got him. We got OJD Vance, Peter Thiel, and the Walton family. I knew there was something going on about these Arkansas farmers. And you know what? You can get mad at me all you want. Do the frickin' research. J.D. Vance owns a large share of a company called Acre Trader. Same with Peter Thiel, the man that's behind all of this monitoring data center crap to watch you and to watch me. And guess what? The Walton family, one of the richest families in the country. Guess what? They own Acre Trader. You know what Acre Trader does, folks? Acre Trader goes in and buys farmland that can't pay their taxes. And guess what they do? They hire people to go in and work it it's for profit, and then all of their investors make money off stealing farmland. It only gets better. Guess what? They specialize in taking corn and soybean farms. Huh. Go figure.
I'm a supporter of President Donald Trump. President Trump is about to allow JBS, the world's most corrupt beef organization, to become publicly traded in America. President Donald Trump will be the president that allows for the complete destruction of the small, independent family farms and cattle ranches. It's concerning, as we haven't heard a word from the Secretary of Agriculture about this, fusion and price fixing, which has cost us our family farms and ranches. As much as I'm a supporter of many of the other things that Trump is doing, anything else in the world that we're working to accomplish and achieve doesn't matter when you have famine and you starve to death. So, Mr. President, I love you. I appreciate you. You're about to put us in a whole world of hurt.
To all of the farmers crying in my comments saying, oh, you must be a leftist libtard. Why, our farmers feed America. What are you talking about? No, I just want you to stand behind what you voted for. You think that J.D. Vance is some type of great American. In reality, he's the first person in line to take your grandpappy's distressed farm. Didn't know that? Didn't know that he invested in buying up distressed farmland? You think that's for your benefit? No, you are just now coming to terms with the fact that you've been swindled, and you want leftists and libtards and Democrats to hold the bag. You want them to be the demon. You want them to feel bad. You want them to cry and feel bad for you, even though you sat there on your stupid Instagram, on your stupid TikTok, and said, the tears taste so good, drinking the libtard tears. We don't care about you. We don't care. Okay, you wanted to watch the world burn? You think that student loans should never be forgiven because they don't do anything to benefit our country? Really? Where do you think these subsidies come from? I'll give you a hint. They're blue states. They're educated states. You red states, actually, you owe half of your existence to us blue states. So no, I'm not going to sit there and cry on Facebook because the government's not coming to bail out your farm. Why do I care about your farm? You want to watch it burn? Let's watch it burn. You want to drink some tears? Let's drink some tears. Let's see how this works. But you can't have it both ways. And the person you voted for is the person screwing you over. So stop asking for sympathy from the people you've been sabotaging, you've been setting up, you've been insulting. It's the people you voted for. It's your own racist friends. Keep your freaking tears out of my comments because we don't care anymore.
This is hilarious.
J.D. Vance wants U.S. farmers to go bankrupt. Let me explain. The vice president is invested in a company called Acre Trader. Think of Acre Trader as the equivalent of buying stock in a company. Instead of buying one condo, you invest in a company that owns 200. This company profits off of selling farmland to investors through shady LLCs. Of course, the problem with LLCs is you don't necessarily know who owns the farmland, including whether or not there are ethical dilemmas. When you're looking to buy a stock, what do? You buy low and sell high, and that's exactly what's happening with Acre Trader. Acre Trader is buying up property that goes into bankruptcy, farmers who are losing their livelihoods after generations. Now, if you wanted to buy cheap property, what would you do? Perhaps create tariffs that put undue burden on farmers that might cause them to go into bankruptcy? Just a thought. Yet somehow a vast majority of farmers in the United States voted for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
So J.D. Vance wants all the farmers to go bankrupt so that they can sell their farmland to his company, Acre Trader. Acre Trader works like stock trade, whereby he buys low from farmers who are desperate and can't run farms they have had for generations in their families. They sell them at very low prices to his company that sells the farms to investors at very, very high prices. Just like stock trade, buy low, sell high. And this is exactly what he wants to do. Let me ask you, does this explain the tariffs imposed on farm produce in US? Maybe this is their target and nothing is a surprise to them. Tell me what you think down in the comments.
Back in March, I made this video warning about privatization and a little company called Acre Trader. Eliminating U.S. aid and deporting immigrants will crush our agriculture. And did you know that Diet Mountain Douche and Castile are partial owners in a company called Acre Trader? Their plan is to crash our farming industry so that they can buy up farmland for pennies on the dollar. They're literally betting on a rural collapse. When there's no farmland left in America and Dumpy's tariffs make it too expensive to buy imported produce, Americans will starve. 6 months later, farm bankruptcies are surging. Family farms are collapsing while billionaires wait to scoop up the wreckage. This isn't random. It is the same playbook. Strip communities of their land, funnel power into a handful of oligarchs, and leave the working people with nothing. This is why TikTok suppression is so harmful. My accounts keep getting banned because they don't want you hearing this. They are purposefully keeping people in the dark until it's too late.
You guys aren't going to believe this shit. I'll make it fast, but stay to the end for the kicker. You remember the last few years when you could not find a single family home, and if you could, you probably couldn't afford it because you had corporate interests like Zillow and BlackRock. They were coming in, heavily investing in the real estate market, wiping the single family homes off the market so the average person could not even buy one. Fast forward to this week, I'm sure you've seen the story of the Missouri farmer, the young guy who was at risk of losing his farm because the grant that he was going to receive to reimburse him for all these expenses he had been cut. Well, look, they've also cut U.S. aid, which gave farmers millions and millions of dollars because they would buy their crops and then send them overseas or send them, places here in the United States to help people in need, but it also helped the farmers. Well, I found out today that there is a website called Acre Trader. Acre Trader is a company that heavily invests in agricultural land. So you can go invest in these farms that are failing, that somehow they're just starting to fail, and you can just buy them up. Well, guess who heavily funded Acre Trader? JD fucking Vance. Do you think they're out here just destroying these small farms so they can buy them up, all these tech bros? Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Did you know JD Vance and Peter Thiel are in the business of buying up America's farmland? Through his venture firm, Vance invested in something called Acre Trader. It's a platform where wealthy investors can scoop up farmland, often when family farmers are struggling or forced to sell. And here's the kicker. Vance brands himself as a champion of rural America while quietly profiting from the very system that drives small farmers off their land. This isn't about saving farms. It's about turning farmland into Wall Street assets, and Vance is right in the middle of it. So, next time he talks about fighting for the working class, remember, he's also cashing in on their loss.
This might be a little fucked up, but I'm actually really looking forward to watching a bunch of white conservative farmers lose their farms and being forced to sharecrop. How's that hate taste? You've been collecting government subsidies to monocrop the shit out of this land, destroying the fucking earth. But God forbid somebody who hasn't had a farm in their family for generations get some fucking help. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm not saying JD Vance purposefully tanked American farms so that the government would repossess them so that he could buy them up for pennies on the dollar and post them on his AgriTrade website where he sells American farmland to foreign investors. I'm just saying he is currently in a position of power which allows him to do so, and he is directly benefiting from it.
JD Vance's investment in Acre Trader is making more and more sense by the day, with Krasnov implementing Ron Vara's tariffs that increase the cost of goods to all these local farms, and them cutting USDA agriculture benefits to these local farms. It's driving a lot of local, rural family farms out of business. Once they go bankrupt and have to foreclose, then these multinational corporations and Acre Trader swoop in, take over the land. It's not just about taking revenue from these small farms and siphoning them through multinational corporations. But now Krasnov administration is trying to take this, in my opinion, stolen land and giving it to racist South African immigrant refugees that churches don't even want anything to do with.
So JD Vance owns a company called Acre, where investors from other countries can buy up American land, predominantly small family farms. And the new Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, her husband, Mark Rollins, works for an energy company that focuses on oil in another country. When I say work for, he's the president. Oh, and Brookie, she would like to basically get rid of farm subsidies. It was posted on her website, and the company that she basically started, the Texas Public Policy Foundation, it was posted that basically what the right thing to do is to defund farms on a federal level and let it all just play out. But sure, Democrats are the corrupt ones.
Well. It's Friday, baby, and we do love a good cup of Fafo tea, and even though we've already poured one Fafo today, we've got another cup in the brew via the way of the farmer in the US of A. That's right, they voted overwhelmingly for Daddy Dumpy Pants. See, the Republicans convinced their ass that China was going to come in and swoop up and take their farmland from them. Yes, they've been telling y'all that lie for quite some time. That China owns all of our farmland, and what they don't already own, they're coming for. So vote for me and I will save your farm, baby. And as of today, farmers are finding out that there's no money about. They can't even get a hold of the things that they need to do the farming, dear. Not the workforce, not the fertilizer, hell, not even the seed. And they're looking towards the government and the orange fool and JD2 for a subsidy or two. But I encourage you to remember that they took away all your subsidies, dear, when they decided to cut into EBT. A whole lot of EBT subsidies go to our farmers, baby, but they cut those subsidies. So you can ask and you can beg all you want to. What's going to end up happening to you is you're going to be encouraged to go once again to a bank, friend, and take out a loan that you will never be able to pay back. And what you're not going to know, what the bank's not going to tell you, but I will tell you right here, dear, because JD has been doing this for almost 2 years. Yes, JD Vance with his toddler pants and his queer stance, the Maybelline queen who has future dictator dreams for over the past 2 years. He's been coming for farmland in the US of A. And his buddy, Peter Thiel, honey, maybe you should look into some of the banks that they own, dear, and some of the banks that they are invested into, and some of the banks that they just might be on the board of, dear. And I want to remind you about the app that JD had out and about, tracking farmland and encouraging you to sign up, man. Yes, he got all the stats and all the facts and all the data he need on what farms he could buy up expeditiously once they crashed the agriculture industry here in the US of A. So if you're worried about losing your farm today, you can thank JD for that, baby. I don't feel sorry for you today because we've been warning you, the farmer, for years and years and years, baby. The only people who have allowed you to have subsidies and supported you in times of despair were the Democrats sitting up there. But you believed the lie from the fucking orange guy and the Maybelline queen, too. So I do not feel sorry for you. They told y'all that they were going to privatize everything in the US of A. They made you believe that that was the way, and you thought it was just going to be the post office, baby, and education and health care. You thought the food was going to slip by the orange guy and his privatizing play today. And by the way, it's not even the orange guy that's into this privatization play. That is directly JD Vance and Peter Thiel that want to privatize all the industries in the US of A, including the agriculture industry, boo. And y'all handed it over
expeditiously to that fucking faux hillbilly who has never broke his back a day in his life. That is a fucking fact. No calluses will ever be found on that crew. They pay immigrants to do those kinds of jobs for them, and they took the immigrants from you.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about what's happening with your farm.
Well, we've got a real disaster with this tariff deal. I mean, we produce 40% more agricultural products in this country than we can consume domestically. 1 in every 4 rows of soybeans in every field in the entire United States of America has to go abroad. China is the largest importer of soybeans in the world. They import 61% of the world's market. Last year, we sent around $12 billion, I think $14 billion worth of soybeans the year before. For the first time in 20 years, China's bought 0 soybeans and 0 new crop corn out of this country.
0?
So we went from 12 billion to 0.
Where are they buying the soybeans?
Brazil. You see, we lost 42% of our market share in the first tariff war. In Trump's first tariff war, the Chinese went to buying their soybeans from Brazil. They invested billions of dollars in Brazilian infrastructure. They have moved into Africa, and they're going to commercially farm in Africa. Since we left with USAID, they moved their Belt and Road program into Africa. So we've pretty much lost the Chinese market share. If we got 100% of the soybean business, Katie, for every country in the world except for Brazil and Argentina, we would still only have half the soybean business that China is.
Can someone please explain to me why farmers and ranchers are still riding for Trump, despite Trump continuing to screw them over? So far, he's launched a trade war with the entire world, and that has caused ag to just plummet. Not to mention all the crops rotting in the field and the workers being deported. Farmers have lost buyers internationally they're never going to get back. Not to mention that farm bankruptcies are at an all-time high in the last 10 years. And if you had researched anything other than his concepts of a plan that he talked about in the debate, you would have seen in his first presidency, he did bankrupt soybean farmers. And he eventually came through with some bailout money. But guess what? If you would have looked into it, a big portion of that money actually went to JBS, that Brazilian meat packing giant. Not your neighbor, not you, not the guy down the road raising cattle. It went to your competitors. And not to mention the conflict of interest with J.D. Vance having investments in Acre trading. They are currently buying up all the failed farms. So I guess I'm just having a hard time understanding why you work this land, you live it, you breathe it, you sweat. Family's been doing this for generations, and now they're all failing and being handed off to billionaires. And you're fed crumbs and slogans, and you support it still. The video blows my mind because he says he still supports it, and he's asking for Donald Trump to personally help him. And I guess that confuses me because, like, why do you think Donald Trump cares about any small business? Donald Trump only cares about Donald Trump. He's not going to help. Eventually, Congress might come through with some kind of bailout for y'all, but it'll probably be too late. They're literally profiting off your losses, and they are selling you out to billionaires. So from what I can see as an outsider, y'all got played again. And I am going to be that annoying person who stitches every single one of these regret videos. Because when you say that you still support him, even though you're literally losing your business, that makes no sense to anybody. Like, none.
I feel like nobody's really fully appreciating exactly how hard J.D. Vance face planted in his first real test as a 2028 candidate. Understand why you have to think about where we're going to be as a country in 2028. It's not going to be a fun process. For the next year, less awful is our target state. This is a run-out-the-clock situation. And then after the Democrats clean house in the midterms, it's going to be a stalemate with impeachment hearings and government shutdowns. While Democrats try to clean up his mess and Donald Trump goes keyboard warrior on Truth Social, screaming witch hunt every 5 seconds. By the time we get to 2028, it's going to feel a lot like 2008, when after 8 years of Bush's failures, Americans were done fighting. We had moved past anger. Most people were scared and desperate for hope. And after 3 more years of this, we're going to get there again. Because what we are experiencing right now is traumatic as hell. And you can't just ignore trauma. If you want to actually heal from it, you have to do something to address it. When that time comes, when Americans are so done fighting, we are ready to actually vote for the next leader, Americans won't forget, because I will help remind them exactly how J.D. Vance responded the very first time he had a chance to help people heal. Instead of doing something to help, he face planted harder than Donald Trump in a punctuation contest. Because J.D. Vance is a guy who is undoubtedly going to want to lead the nation after Trump, and he had an opportunity to help people through trauma. His response was to blame Americans for it and say there can be no unity with people who disagree with them, no unity with people who speak differently from them, and no unity with Americans he considered to be assholes when they were grieving. Well, JD, Republicans should know better than anyone. Sometimes when people witness something terrible, sometimes when people recognize that this country is being fractured by forces we feel like we can't control, we respond poorly. After January 6th, I would think Republicans would recognize that. And when these things happen, it gives our leaders an opportunity to help us. This is one of those opportunities. But in failing this test and proving he's just another mediocre Republican leader incapable of dealing with grief, so he turns it into rage, Vance admitted he is not up for the task of being the unifying force that we will inevitably need when we miraculously drag ourselves to 2028.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about what's happening with your farm.
Well, we've got a real disaster with this tariff deal. I mean, we produce 40% more agricultural products in this country than we can consume domestically. 1 in every 4 rows of soybeans in every field in the entire United States of America has to go abroad. China is the largest importer of soybeans in the world. They import 61% of the world's market. Last year, we sent around $12 billion, I think $14 billion worth of soybeans the year before. For the first time in 20 years, China's bought 0 soybeans and 0 new crop corn out of this country.
0?
So we went from 12 billion to 0.
Where are they buying the soybeans?
Brazil. You see, we lost 42% of our market share in the first tariff war. In Trump's first tariff war, the Chinese went to buying their soybeans from Brazil. They invested billions of dollars in Brazilian infrastructure. They have moved into Africa, and they're going to commercially farm in Africa. Since we left with USAID, they moved their Belt and Road program into Africa. So we've pretty much lost the Chinese market share. If we got 100% of the soybean business, Katie, for every country in the world except for Brazil and Argentina, we would still only have half the soybean business that China is.
So apparently J.D. Vance owns like 9 million% of Acre Trader. At least that's what I was told yesterday. No. So I went to Snopes. I checked with like Google AI, Grok, a lot of different places. Essentially, yeah, I remember J.D. Vance founded Naira Capital, and they're a venture capital firm. They gave money to it was up to $65,000 to Acre Trader, and there's no evidence that he still is invested in that. He left his job there. It's like so think high-end mutual funds, because you have to be like accredited SEC trader to be able to buy into this. So regardless, whatever. I guess if that's the truth, if he owns $65,000 in this probably multi-million-dollar company, I have mutual funds in stocks, and I guarantee you at one point one of the mutual funds that we have own John Deere stock. Yes, I'm against the farmer too because I own John Deere stock. That's probably like $200 in John Deere stock. But regardless, I mean, that's the thing. So where did this all come from? Essentially, it was from last election cycle. Somebody went and found this out because it's declared. I mean, he had to declare stuff when he was in Congress. So it's declared. And that's what they had. And they said, you can't trust him because he's helping foreign companies invest in land. And technically, they don't own the land with Acre Trader. It's a weird thing. But regardless, I mean, it's an election tactic that carried over from last year. People grabbed it when everybody was going after farmers lately. And they just decided that JD Vance owns all of Acre Trader and every company that's this terrible. And before you go into this, Kyle is MAGA. Look, he's got an American flag on his gator. One, it's 9/11. Two, I went to Purdue, and yeah, there's a flag on my Purdue shirt because Purdue has the All-American Marching Band, and before every football game, they have a speech that is recited saying at the end, "I'm an American," and everybody says it. It's been a tradition for like 50 years at Purdue. Wait, Purdue's MAGA? No, I didn't vote for Biden, didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I don't have any Trump stuff, I didn't vote for Trump the last election cycle. I am not MAGA. I am just a person who posts opinions online. I guess if you don't like it, that's kind of your problem. Because I'm associated with agriculture. I'm just a bad guy, I guess. Whatever. It's 9/11. There's a flag. Ooh, I'm scared. It's a political statement.
Boy, this thing getting super interesting, man. Oh, potatoes.
So that's what we got for American farmers is zero empathy. We want them to fail. That's what you're saying out there. That's
the farmers in Arkansas say they are suffering.
Well, next time you'll vote the right way, or that's what you get for who you voted for. That to me, I want to say it doesn't sound very American of people, but here lately, that's all we're doing is complaining.
Bring me my shoes. Give me my hat. I've got to look my very best in my brand new slacks. Bring my umbrella.
I'm about to say something that might sound a little unempathetic right now. But what I'm going to need you to do, sir, is going to be very simple. I'm going to need you to go in your closet and find your best pair of boots that you can find. And listen very carefully to what I'm about to say right now. Because you've been told us that's why we don't wear these ones. Because when we was in trouble, you told us very distinctively to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. So that's what we've been doing. We've been sipping water, minding our business for a good little minute, trying to find them boots that y'all told us about when we was running around with flip-flops and couldn't afford no boots. But I'm quite sure you got a good pair of farmer boots. Go on, pull yourself up by your own bootstrap. Yeah.
The bathroom etiquette to try to bail them out.
Today I'm also announcing that Secretary Perdue, who happens to be right next to me, handsome man, and the Department of Agriculture will be implementing a $19 billion relief program for our great farmers and ranchers as they cope with the fallout of the global pandemic. Very honored to be doing this.
Sorry, silly me. That money was for COVID relief. Here's the other deficit spending for farmers for the problems we caused that I was talking about.
60 Minutes was investigating what happened to a $28 billion government bailout for farmers when the pandemic hit. Farmers and ranchers tell us that if government aid doesn't reach their small and mid-sized farms soon, it'll make it nearly impossible for American farming to stay in the family.
It's just hard, Leslie. I worry about my kids. My sons are on the farm, and I worry about them all the time.
Right. The money from Trump's initial bailout for the tariffs that he imposed got so delayed that the farmers were still waiting for it when the COVID money was announced and was supposed to come through. But fast forward to today, right? Well, Trump may feel like this about his imposed tariffs.
And we're watching to see how the markets do today. But the president doesn't seem overly concerned about the markets. He defended the tariffs to reporters on Air Force One yesterday, and he blamed his predecessor for the state of the economy.
Right. It's all Joe Biden's fault, guys. Okay. The tariffs that Trump imposed, the subsequent bailout that he'll need to do while farmers' land is being foreclosed and sold to other foreign countries, that's all Joe Biden's fault. But don't fret. Don't worry. Trump has a master plan, right? Nothing solves the deficit
like increasing the cost of imports, decreasing the profit of exports, and then also having to bail out the industries that you've subsequently screwed over through said tariffs. It's just straight up MAGA Republican math. It makes sense if you have ever had a lobotomy. But here's where things get a little suspicious, even for MAGA standards.
Website where overseas entities, big conglomerates, can come in and buy these farms that are being foreclosed on right now. Because the small farmer in America is losing everything right now. Right from farmlandgrab.org, J.D. Vance funded Acre Trader. Snoops, J.D. Vance owns company that sells American real estate to foreign entities. This is fucking insane. You want to talk about corrupt? Like you think J.D. Vance didn't know this? As they cut funding to all these small farms in this country? They're foreclosing on their farms. American people are losing their farms left and right now. And J.D. Vance knew this was coming. Now he's got Acre Trader set up. It's a website where foreign entities can come in and buy these foreclosed farms up.
So here's where the wormhole really opens up and becomes Lisan al-Gaib-esque, right? J.D. Vance owns this fucking company, pardon my French, that sells American real estate to foreign investors. The question mark is unnecessary. He quite literally funded this company called Acre Trader. This article starts, some of the most pristine farmland in California can be yours, at least by proxy, in just a matter of minutes. That's the promise that Acre Trader, a company with the mission of simplifying investing in valuable U.S. farmland, makes to prospective financiers. Acre Trader is just one of many companies launched in the past decade to facilitate the sale of farmland, which has increasingly become a staple in investor portfolios. Recently, it was revealed that this includes the investment portfolio of vice presidential nominee at the time, J.D. Vance, the Republican senator from Ohio. Vance invested up to $65,000 in private investments in Acre Trader during his stint as a venture capitalist, according to his 2022 financial disclosure to the Senate Ethics Committee. 2022, $65,000. You know, I was thinking about, like, what do I do with my extra $65K that I just got sitting around, you know? Like, what was I supposed to do with that? First, I tried burning it. I tried giving it to charity, but then I was like, you know what? No. Let me invest in the demise of American farmers. And boy, can I tell you, the returns have been incredible. Acre Trader is part of a larger trend of the financialization of farmland. The last 2 decades have witnessed a sharp uptick in investor interest in farmland as investors seek to hedge against inflation and stock market volatility. Not that there's been a lot of that recently. And they've turned to it as a reliable bet. In recent years, bipartisan political leaders have pushed to curb foreign investments in U.S. farmland, citing the potential for a national security risk, which clearly J.D. Vance is like so concerned about, right? But earlier this week, where the Republican-controlled House, this article is from September, by the way, passed a bill restricting citizens from China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran from purchasing U.S. farmland. And yet somehow, J.D. Vance gets rich by owning an app that helps investors outside of the United States snap up real estate deals, including many family farms and rental properties that are then owned by people who have never and will never see those places and who only own those places to obtain money and power in our country.
Y'all wait now? While you're all praising Elon Musk as he lies right through his fucking teeth to you and admits it. Says, we're not going to bat 1,000 every time now, are we? You people are a fucking clown show. Where's all you Republicans at that were claiming that liberals were selling all of our land to China and shit? Where are you at, dog? Where you at? Where are you at? Where you at? Where are you been?
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.
Florida homes are not selling. This is hilarious. Over 2 million homes in Florida are empty. This is because houses are overpriced and more people are living in Florida than those moving in.
Just got a call from the realtor that the people buying our house might be backing out because They were here yesterday for inspections, and the inspections went great. There's literally nothing wrong with the house. But, of course, they ask my husband, what do you do for a living? And we say, oh, he's a stay-at-home dad. And then the questions follow, well, what do you do then? And I said, social media. And they acted like it was so cool. They were, like, asking all these questions. Like, how do you make money doing that? How many followers do you have? And I had mentioned that I did a post about us moving. I thought it would, like, ease their mind. Like, we didn't post to our 1 million followers that we're selling our house. They took that as we have a stalker, which is why we're moving. If we had a stalker, we would not be here. My kids wouldn't be playing outside right now. I don't know if I'll post this because I'm such an ugly crier.
It's not only in Florida, but other states too are having real estate fluctuations. Tell me what's the cause down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts about this.
As a real estate agent in Florida, I'm going to tell you what I've been seeing lately. So we're getting a ton of sellers who want to sell. Great, awesome clients, listings. But no, there's a catch, because majority of these sellers want us to sell their property for a value it's not worth. The numbers don't lie. The comps don't lie. If you want to overprice your property and shoot yourself in the foot, that's one thing. But we're realizing that it's not even worth taking the listing. Who cares? We don't need the listings to show we get listings, because when we get a listing and we market, we're dumping at least $500 per property to get it going, get the photography, get the videography. It costs money to play. So if we're spending all this money, say we have 5 sellers who want to list their house all overpriced, 5 times 500 is $2,500 that more than likely the houses aren't going to sell. Like, let's be honest. The sellers aren't going to accept a low ball offer is what they call it, but realistically it's what the house is worth, but they're not going to accept it. So agents are spinning their wheels, dumping money into these properties to try and sell it, when it's just a waste of time. It really is, and I hate to say it, but it's what's going on right now. So Florida, I don't know what state you guys are in, but I'm in Florida, and it's 100% a buyer's market right now. Sellers do not have the upper hand. You're lucky to get a couple showings right now, especially if you're overpriced. You're probably going to get none.
You know your home is not on Zillow. And I said, I did. And they said, well, you know, here's some stats and you're going to be adversely impacted. I said, I don't care. So that was their resolve. Wow. Dude, I lost $1 million deal, and it was my house. Because the guy said that his estimate was like $400,000. And I went and I looked, and it had my $1 million lake house as a duplex. It gets better. So Zillow called me as the homeowner. So they had a team of people doing this, and they said, did you know your home is not on Zillow? And I said, I did. And they said, well, you know, here's some stats and you're going to be adversely impacted. I said, I don't care. So that was their resolve to put my home on as a duplex and then make the Zestimate like a quarter of the price or a third of the price. I mean, there's nobody that I can fucking do anything with, right? Like, there was nothing I can do. And when I pointed it out to this guy who backed out of the deal because of that, I had to assume over the earnest deposit was like 25 grand, you know, but the fact that he had that as ammo is just.
This is day 107 of us trying to sell our home here in Florida, and it is not selling. I know everyone keeps telling me in the comments that it is our price, and I'm telling you guys it is not our price. We've dropped our price 3 times now. We are lower than everything else on the market. If you guys have any suggestions what else to try, I mean, it's a bigger house, so maybe there's just not families our size that have this. So we're a family of 6, so it's a big house. Yeah, I don't know, maybe there's not people our size, maybe there's people sort of in our price bracket who are trying to move to our area. We're gonna try to get like a professional photographer to come in and kind of stage the house, get the drone, get the 3D imaging, all that stuff, to see if presentation will just get more eyeballs, and then more eyeballs will be more showings will hopefully eventually equal a sale. But man, if you guys have any recommendations, put them down in the comments, man. I'm all ears.
Life update for those who care. I just took my house off the market, and I'm going to tell you why. Before I get into this, I want to make sure that I mention I am not an expert. I'm just talking about what I've seen in my neighborhood, okay? I listed my house 23 days ago, and at the time, there were only 2 houses for sale. Both of them had been sitting on the market for a little over 30 days. As soon as I listed, 4 more houses for sale, including my neighbor. And since then, there's been 2 more. I don't like competition, so I took my house off, but that's not the only reason. I started going just a little bit outside of my neighborhood to see how long those houses were sitting. 75 days, 89 days. Your girl know how to take a hint. If houses are not selling and they're sitting, I'm not about to have the house on the market right now. It's just not a good time, obviously. So I started doing some research because I'm thinking I can't be the only person going through this. I ended up finding this article. 2 states where home prices are falling because there are too many houses and not enough buyers. They are talking about Florida and Texas. Now, the experts say that we're not going to have a housing market crash, but it looked like it. So anyway, I'm just going to wait until after the market cools down a little bit, and then I'll try again.
You know why 90% of real estate agents fail? It's not the market. It's not the lead flow. It's you, actually. Because if you don't fix these 4 things, the game will eat you alive. Number 1 is no consistency. 1 follow-up and done? Are you kidding me? Sales happen after the 5th call, the 7th DM, the 10th email. You have to follow up, follow through, follow back. That's how you win. Number 2 is no marketing strategy. Posting and praying is not a strategy. You need a brand that speaks before you do, and a plan to turn attention into action. Every touch point should answer, who are you? What do you solve? Why you? Number 3, fear of sales. If no scares you, you're never going to get to a yes. People don't hate sales. They hate weak salespeople who are not confident. Show up like you believe it's the greatest deal of their life. Number 4 is no systems, no scale. Winging it is not a business model. Systems scale. Automations save you. CRMs, content calendars, templates, use them. Every minute saved is money earned. Top 10% in our business, they're not more talented, they're just more intentional. This market rewards those who show up, follow up, and level up.
Just talked to my buddy in New York, and hedge funds are selling and selling fast. If you think real estate has been really bad over the last year or 2, it's about to get a whole lot worse because hedge funds are now liquidating their holdings. Some of these funds and some of these corporations have thousands of homes under ownership. Not only are they not buying anymore, but now they're starting to list and sell. That's right, they're trying to get rid of their inventory before the price absolutely crashes. And that is exactly what's going on in 2025. The crash has begun. Throughout the whole south of the United States, in Texas right now, foreclosures are skyrocketing. And it's not in the news yet, but it will be shortly. This is the main thing to know. Inventory continues to soar, and now you have builders discounting homes big time, and you've got hedge funds and companies getting rid of the thousands and thousands of homes they invested in. Yeah, this is a complete collapse, and we're watching it happen. Like and follow for more.
Selling my house and losing probably about $20,000, maybe more, but let's hope not. I'm sharing this with all of you because I have heard, oh, that never happens. People never lose money on the sale of a house. That's not true, especially if you purchased your house in 2022 or 2023 at the height of the market. I think if you're selling your house right now, dependent on what market you're in, you might be facing something similar. And I've seen a lot of people talk about that. But buying a house in 2023 or building a house like we did, what
housing supply is through the roof. We're talking 60% more inventory than normal. This is great news for DFW home buyers like us because there's the most selection that the market has had since the tail end of the last downturn in 2011-2012. But great news for buyers typically means bad news for sellers. This person says, good, it's about time for a price correction. Prices need to drop 30 to 40%, if not more, because everyone thinks their home is $500,000 to $750,000 in the North Dallas area.
Can I just bet about selling a home? Our house has been on the market for 9-10 months. We're supposed to close tomorrow. And these people, the request of things is like outrageous. They want a credit towards future issues. Like the stone on the outside, they want $13,000 to fix the stone if something happens. They want us to redo the cement on the side of our house that we just put in to build stairs. We just put in a golf cart path and now they want stairs, but they want us to do it and us to pay for it. Are these outrageous requests or are these normal? Help.
So, update on the house. The realtor just told us, I thought that we would be, so we bought this house for $350. I thought we'd be able to sell it for $4. Sorry, I just drank some carrot juice. We put so much money into renovations into this house, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. I thought that would be able to go towards the house, but we can only sell it for $355. So I basically lost my inheritance. My dad left me like $40,000 and I put it all into the house. And that's about how much money we're losing. So
I got bad news for you if you are wanting to sell your house. And no, it's not that the market's trash. Because the market's not trash, at least not in our area. The bad news is all of the home maintenance and updates and stuff that you've been putting off for the last 5 to 10 years, you're gonna have to do. So if you wanna sell your house for top dollar and quickly, you are gonna have to do all the things that you've been avoiding. And that's just how it is. We are in a more stagnant market. Buyers are picky. Buyers don't want to spend a bunch of money on a house and then come in and have to fix everything because you've been putting it at the bottom of your to-do list. This isn't COVID times. They're not buying everything just so they can buy something. It has to be in perfect condition or near close. And I'll tell you just little facts about this. I've recently had multiple houses that I've put on the market that are pristine and they have received multiple offers. They have went over asking price. They have had inspections waived. All of those aggressive offers have came in because the house deserves it. If your house is not clean, cute, organized, updated, cared for, you're not getting offers. Buyers aren't stupid these days. They want what they want, just like you want if you're buying a house. So get off your butt, find the contractors. You have to get that house ready if you want to sell it.
Here are 3 things you should never do when selling your house, Realtor Edition. Number 1 is concealing known defects. Now, in California, and I believe everywhere else in the United States, you need to disclose all known material facts regarding the property to the new buyer prior to close of escrow. The main reason why a lot of homeowners are getting sued is because they fail to disclose known material facts. Number 2 is repairing instead of giving credit for the requested repairs. So once you're in escrow, after the buyer does their due diligence, they will submit a request for repairs. I always encourage my clients to give credit back to the buyer so you can release yourself of any liability that you might have. If you are conducting those repairs using your contractor, you can open yourself and make yourself liable for those repairs. And number 3 is hiring an agent that is not an expert in the local market. Real estate, especially right now, is hyper localized. So in order for you to get the most money for your property, I always encourage everyone to hire an agent that's very familiar with their particular market, that does a lot of business there, because that's the agent that will be able to answer all the questions from the buyers and also sell your property for top dollar.
The selling season's over in just 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, selling homes is going to be almost non-existent, which it is right now. It's at record lows across the country. But if you think it's low now, and it's prime season, June, biggest season of the year for buying and selling homes, and it's been a disaster. But it's about to get a lot worse because in 2 weeks, it'll be past the 4th of July. And after the 4th of July, it's all about back to school, back to school, back to school. So real estate brakes will come on like you just cannot believe. If you think it's bad now, August, September, October, November, December, there's going to be no action at all. If you're trying to sell your house, you have 2 weeks. After that, it's probably not going to happen till next year. Can you afford to wait till next year? A lot of people would say no. What say you?
Here's the latest in Florida real estate. Hedge funds are now selling their properties, but only if you are willing to do seller financing.
What's a hedge fund?
Listen to this. This is craziness. Hi, Xavier.
Hi.
So, I just called on a property that one of my buyers is interested in seeing, and I had to track it down because although it's a property that's in our area, it's not in our MLS. There's a big red flag. So I had to go to like a homes.com or something to track down this agent and figure out what's going on with this property. And what he told me is that, first of all, he's not even local. He lives in Pensacola. He works for a hedge fund, and they are liquidating some of their properties. However, the caveat is only if you are a buyer who's willing to do seller financing with them. If this sends your little red flags up, good, because here's why that is only a great deal for the hedge fund. Also, my buyer is a cash buyer. They're not even willing to let me show the house to a cash buyer. So do they really want to sell the house? No, what they really want is they really want to sell financing.
Wow.
Yes, wow. This is really interesting. Florida real estate is never boring. Now, why would they want to do that? Because why? They get to offload and defer the cost of holding the property. However, with seller financing, if the buyer doesn't pay their mortgage, the seller gets to repossess the house, and they get to keep all the money that you've given them for however long it is. Let's say you paid on it for 10 years and you stop paying the mortgage, they can take it back from you and repossess this property, keep all that money, and sell it again. Not only that, but now they get the financing interest rate on top of offloading and deferring the cost of holding the property. And here's the kick. The agent on the phone literally told me, we're looking for people who can't get pre-approved with a traditional loan.
Oh, geez. So it's not like, because seller financing necessarily isn't a bad thing. Like we sometimes bring it up as a great option or creating a win-win, right? But they're using it as a tactic to try and find that very particular buyer who's hurting and may end up actually defaulting on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is called, I believe, in my opinion, this is very predatory. I think this is incredibly predatory.
Predatory lending.
And I don't even know, maybe I'm not allowed to say that, but my little spidey senses and my red flags are going insane. If you cannot get pre-approved for a traditional loan, don't buy a house. Don't buy a house. Figure out what you need to do to get pre-approved for a traditional loan and do that. Don't fall for some of this predatory stuff that's going on out there right now. Oh, if you want more information about this, if you have more information about this, please message me.
Who you choose to use as your title company is so important. I have yet again had a client come to me with an issue regarding the title commitment provided and the standard Florida purchase and sale agreement. This is a provision that often gets missed. Many title companies in my local area do not comply with it, and many real estate agents and their clients are unaware this provision even exists. So paragraph 9C of our standard contract provides as follows: at least blank days, if left blank, then 15, prior to closing date, a title insurance commitment issued by a Florida licensed title insurer with legible copies of instruments listed as exceptions thereto, blah, 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 shall be provided and delivered to buyer. So the key language there is not only is the seller, as part of their obligations under the contract, assuming they're the one hiring and paying for the title company, is required to provide a title commitment to the buyer within that deadline, but the title commitment has to include legible copies of the instruments listed as exceptions in that title commitment. That is not often done, guys. So in the event that that is not done, that is certainly a technical breach of the contract by the seller. Again, assuming the seller has hired and is paying for the title company, that's an option listed on the contract. However, it may or may not be a material breach. And why it is important, whether it's a technical versus a material breach, is because a material breach means that the buyer can terminate the contract based on that breach and potentially get damages. A seller, or any party to a contract for that matter, is not liable to the other party unless their breach is material. I have not argued this issue to a court. I have never seen a court issue an opinion on this, so I don't know. I'm using my legal knowledge and analytical skills to deduce this here, but my thought is, for the most part, the documents or the instruments listed as exceptions on the title commitment are going to be part of the public record. And depending on the county and depending on the year of those documents, will be available electronically with a few clicks on your computer. So if that is the case, I think the default is technical, not material, because even though the seller should have provided it, a buyer is deemed to have knowledge of anything and everything in the public record related to that property. And the title commitment is going to give the buyer the book and page number so that they can go online and look it up very easily. Where I think a buyer may have an argument that this is a material breach is in the instance where the documents, the instruments listed as exceptions in the title commitment are not available online or without the payment of some sort of fee. This is likely going to be because of the age or the date of the document. Different counties have different cutoff dates, but if you're looking for a document that was recorded in the 1970s, which easements and things like that very well could fall into that category, that's not likely going to be available online. The buyer could drive to the clerk of court, pay a fee, and probably get it. But that, I think that situation would be a better argument for the buyer to say it's a material breach. So what is the point of getting kind of this deep into this issue is, as a real estate agent, as a home buyer or seller, you need to be aware of this. You need to make sure that your title company is complying with this. But if you are a buyer and a seller doesn't comply with this, it doesn't necessarily mean you can cancel the contract and sue the pants off of them. You need to get with an attorney on those options because, like most things in law, it's not black and white. Bye.
If you're a seller and you feel like your property is sitting on the market, take a listen to this. So I took over a property that was listed by 3 other agents for over 7 months. I took it over and it sold within 14 days. We still concluded at the price the seller wanted 7 months ago, so we didn't take a knock on price. But there were strategic things I looked at to ensure we could achieve this goal, knowing it had been listed for so long. So number one was that I wanted to just give it a whole different feel in terms of its actual listing. So we decluttered, we restaged, just a completely different feel in terms of photos. We then did a sunset shoot, because I wanted it to almost look like a different house, which it did. And then number 3 was that we followed a very unique pricing strategy. As I said, we still concluded at the same price, so we didn't take a knock on price, but how we marketed it was different to previously with the other agents. And then number 4 is that we showcased it on social media. I knew I couldn't rely on inquiries from the portals because it had already been exposed on the portals with the other agents. By portals, I mean Private Property, Property 24. So those are the 4 things I did, and actually I sold it off Instagram. So if you're a seller and you are sitting on the market, perhaps chat to your agent about getting new photos done, and you as the seller can declutter, maybe stage, shift some furniture around, do that evening shoot, or if you've done an evening shoot, do a day shoot, maybe it'll give it a whole different feel, and then get it showcased on social media, because if it's just on the portals currently, you have a whole different set of eyeballs that haven't seen your property. So maybe get them to do a little walkthrough video, something like that, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, and then see if perhaps you get some more feet through the door that way.
He actually used the words $1 trillion real estate collapse in Florida. And essentially he based this on the fact that even now it's extremely hard to get insurance and coverage for homes in Florida. I live in Florida, and it's super expensive. Just because the storms have gotten bad, the flooding's gotten bad, the cost of homes is so high. If they had to replace a home, it's incredibly high. Everything's so high, and the risk of flooding and everything is higher. And he said basically we're going to have these like super storms, and that's going to make it so much worse. And then with the flooding, he thinks basically everything from like Fort Myers down, which includes, you know, obviously all of Miami and everything, will be underwater, and those people have to migrate somewhere. And they're not going to migrate to other parts of Florida because Florida is going to have this systemic collapse in the housing industry, the real estate industry, because of the fact that, the homes are uninsurable and it's not going to make sense to live there anymore. So the people, as their homes get wiped out, they're not going to rebuild, they're going to move. And a lot of times they can't rebuild because the area is going to be literally underwater. This is all according to the data, not me. Don't yell at me. I live in Florida. I'm not like wanting this to happen, but this is what his data shows him. So that's migration one. And it's not just Florida. He talks about California. He talks about the Northeast. I mean, look where New York City is, guys. I mean, you could throw a rock and hit the ocean. You're talking about some of the most concentrated population centers in all of the country are right on the water. So that's not good. So there's gonna be a migration inward from the coastal areas.
How you guys doing over there in Florida? No hurricanes yet, but that housing market sure does look like it's crashing.
Man, I don't know what you heard, but there ain't no housing crash going on here.
So you're just gonna get here on TikTok and tell everyone that everything's fine. You're just selling all these homes.
Well, now that you mention it, I'm gonna have my best month ever this August.
Yeah, okay, now we know you're lying.
Nope, it's definitely gonna be a record month.
Oh, so you're gonna sell 2 homes this month and not 1? That's your record?
Since you asked, no, it's gonna be 9, but that's not the record. I've sold more than 9 in 1 month. The record is $6.5 million in production.
You mean to tell me you're selling 9 homes in 1 month worth $6.5 million in Florida this month?
Yeah, and they put me on the cover of a magazine.
Man, you convinced all those poor suckers to buy before a crash.
Oh, I didn't convince any of them to buy a home. I helped them buy or sell a home. And who I really feel bad for are the people that you guys have convinced not to buy a home for the last, I don't know, decade.
If you've spent any time on my channel, you've seen firsthand the destruction that private equity has wrought, destroying communities and small businesses all across America and causing harm to our economies and monopolization to our industries. But for the first time, the DOJ and the FTC are asking you if you believe they should do something about it. And I think it's time we make our voices heard. From now until July 22nd, the FTC and the DOJ have issued something called a joint RFI. That's a request for information, asking everyday Americans if they believe taxpayer dollars would be well spent investigating and prosecuting private equity through their practices of serial acquisition, destruction of communities, monopolistic tactics, and worse. And I believe that it's time to make your voice heard on this issue. Now, I know that sounds scary, it sounds daunting, it sounds hard. But it doesn't have to be because I've made it easy for you. I've created a kit at the link in my bio so that from any one of 3 perspectives, you can create a custom letter to the FTC and the DOJ from the perspective of either a consumer, an employee, or a small business owner. You can do more than one if you'd like. You can craft your letter in under 3 minutes, and then you can go to the link below and submit it to the FTC and the DOJ, making your voice heard and saying for now and forevermore that Americans are tired of watching our communities be destroyed by private equity, that we are demanding that they not only investigate, regulate, but take action and prosecute private equity for their monopolistic antitrust practices, for their practices of destroying small businesses and destroying communities, and we demand it now. It's a simple 3-step process. 1, choose one of the kits in my bio and find the letter that you think speaks to your needs, your community, your experiences, and your family. You're going to choose the letter that matters to you. Number 2, you're going to copy it to your Notes app, or if you're on your computer, copy it to Doc or Google Docs or whatever works for you as a word processor. 3, you're going to go to the 4th link in my bio, and that's going to take you directly to the FTC comment page where you can either copy it into the comment section if it's 5,000 characters less, or you can paste it into the document as an upload if it's an endless amount of characters you would like to submit. And then you can make your voice heard. American voices matter. We are tired of being told that nothing is wrong and that we should continue to be quiet and do as we are told. We are tired of watching our economy fall apart, our economic mobility disappear and slip through our hands like sand. And we are tired of being told that nothing can change, because there is nothing in the history of the world that has ever changed without a single person standing up and screaming, "I've had enough." And so I'm calling on you to be one of those voices and say, we've had enough. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and we work together to stop private equity, to fight to save small businesses in our community, and to make our voices heard.
It's natural. Your home is full of memories. First holidays, family dinners, and even that spot you measured the kid's height on the wall. But when emotions run the show, decisions get harder. Here's what could happen when you're too attached. Overpricing because you think buyers will see the home the way you do. Taking low offers as an insult instead of part of negotiation. Refusing to make small changes that could help it sell faster. The truth is, buyers don't see your memories. They see square footage, the layout, and how the house will fit them. Our job is to help you honor the past while focusing on the future, so you don't let emotions get in the way of your goals. Because selling isn't about forgetting the memories. It's about carrying them with you and moving forward with peace of mind. Message us to get the conversation started on how we can help you with your move.
I'm going to tell you why your house isn't selling. You have been sold a bill of goods. A lot of you from all over the country reach out to me and say your house has been on the market for 6 months, a year, even 2 years, and you don't understand why it's not selling. First, you're welcome to message me either here or you can go to my link tree, contact me directly, and I'm happy to help when I can. When I take a look at your listings that aren't selling, the one thing you all have in common, you've tried to neutralize your house. You've taken all the personality out of it. It's boring. Whether your real estate agent directed you to do this or this is a belief that you have, the belief that taking all the personality out makes the buyer envision themselves there. And that could not be farther from the truth. A lot of you freshly paint the walls, and it's clear you're worried about putting nail holes because you have no art on the walls. When someone falls in love with your home and they want to buy it, they do not care about nail holes. You are worried about the wrong things. When you take the personality out of your home looks like every other home on the market. And with inventory up across the country, buyers are forgetting your home. You need to stand out. You need to do the opposite of what you're doing. In order for the brain to remember anything, there has to be contrast. Highs and lows, darks and lights, smooth and rough. You have to incorporate these things into your home. A lot of you have very sparsely furnished homes. There's no rugs, there's no window coverings, and there's no contrast. It's all one note. First, you need to fix this, and then you need to have new photos. You don't necessarily need to hire a stager, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can go to stores like Home Goods, Target, even Costco. And if you choose the right things, it's going to make a big impact. You can get a designer consult for not a lot of money. Or if you have a friend who's really good with design, bring them over and have them help you. The reason your home isn't selling is because no one's telling the story. You need to go back to why you bought that particular home. What stood out? What was important to you? What do you love about it? Even when you're getting negative feedback about something, turn it into a positive. Someone contacted me who lived in a gated community and their home was very close to the entrance. They said the negative feedback was that it was too close to the entrance. For me, if you have a long drive home from work or you've been shopping with the kids and you have to go to the bathroom, having your home close to the entrance instead of having to drive another 10 minutes to get there is a huge selling point. Don't be afraid to point out the obvious. Your agent should be asking you, why did you buy this home? What made you fall in love with it? What are the benefits of living here? They have to understand the home in order to be able to sell it. The third thing is the description. I generally see very, very bad descriptions. They're listing the materials that were used. There's no story, just facts. Emotions make people respond. Emotions make people buy. A lot of people are using ChatGPT to write the descriptions. They don't edit them, they don't give prompts, and you can tell one sentence in when ChatGPT wrote the description. Buyers don't care about the kind of flooring. They don't care about the countertops you used. They can see these things in the photos. They care about the emotion and the experience of living there. So if your agent can't get to the heart of that in the text, first buyers are going to look at the photos and not even read the text if they're not interested. But if the photos capture them, they usually go and read the story. And that's what it is. It's a story. And this is why year after year after year, sellers call me after their home didn't sell with another agent. They could have been on the market for 6 months or 2 years. And I rework everything from A to Z. And the property goes from being ignored to being fought over. Don't worry about the nail holes. Make your home as beautiful and as interesting as it can be. Selling real estate's like fishing. You've got to bait the hook with something good. Then you've got to reel it in.
The Wall Street Journal just named Cape Coral the worst housing market in America. But was it clickbait or reality? So here's the truth. If you compare everything to an all-time high, everything's going to look bad. So prices dropped from $465,000, the height of the COVID era pandemic, to $371,000. So that's a 20% drop. But since 2020, you're still up 49%. That's not a collapse, that's a correction. In June of 2020, Cape Coral had 499 sales. In June of 2025, we had 471 sales. So clearly, buyers are still buying and are still active if the price is right. So during the COVID era, we had 2.5 months of supply. Today, we have 7.5 months. But before the COVID era, between 2015 and 2020, we're always hovering between 4 to 5 months. So yes, we're in a buyer's market, but that's not the same as a crash or a collapse. There were also only 76 foreclosures in the whole last year, and currently there's only 10 foreclosure sales on the MLS. So this clearly is not 2008 all over again. Don't let clickbait headlines shape your real estate decisions. If you want facts, not fear, shoot me a DM and I'll walk you through it.